Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Samantha Carter with me here today. Samantha is the founder and CEO of Clarity Metrics Group. She's a decision scientist and has spent over 15 years in business management, understanding visual thinking, operation management, decision psychology. She has an executive Juris Doctorate from Purdue, an MBA from the University of Phoenix, and has a certificate from ASU in applied business and data analytics. She's a Scrum Master, a Lean Green Belt, is a design for Six Sigma, and a Lean Champion certified. Welcome to the show, Samantha.
Thank you.
All right. There's a lot of designations there.
Yeah. Yes. And, so I know at the end you might ask me about wealth, and I'm going to talk about how I feel and how those certificates affect wealth. So.
Okay, sure. That sounds great. Let me ask you first, which are you most proud of all those? Currently.
I would say my MBA has gotten me the furthest. I hate to say, but it's true. My MBA, that's in this current workforce, you can have a high school degree, and become the CEO of some, like we've seen
Sure.
These stories happen. Education, while it's still very important to have, it's not a deal breaker or a maker anymore. I don't think so.
Correct.
A lot of what I've done as a decision scientist has been learned through Google University or, other courses that I've taken on LinkedIn Learning, things like that. So, and I didn't get a certificate for those things, but, there is so much information out there now that we can kind of self-teach, self-help,
Sure.
so.
Absolutely.
So, but if I had to pick, it would be my MBA.
Okay. But you're right. Yeah. Proper education is the lifelong process, and it's largely on us to do all
absolutely.
that. Okay, excellent. So why don't you give us a quick snapshot of your business?
So Clarity Metrics Group is a decision science-based company. And what we do is we create decision designs and strategic designs based on decision science, which is, I think, what sets us apart from most people, because when we create our designs, it's using a number of interdisciplines to create a very well thought out 360 approach to making these different frameworks within someone's unique ecosystem. So it's not that we're just kind of copy, cut, and pasting a design that we just will paste and give to everyone and say this will work for sure. No, we really go out, we do participatory approach, we're interviewing people, we're getting that data, we're collecting that information, and then we're using that information to create outcomes that speak specifically to your organization and what your needs are. And it covers these designs that we do when we use our tools that we created, the decision design appraisal or the decision design itself. We are using these tools to get this information in a very structured way so that we are asking questions that make sense and fall into our decision science. So That's what we do.
So it sounds like it's customized, not a one size fits all sort of paradigm you apply to the different situations. But let's back up again and talk a little bit more about for our listeners, what is decision science, and how? What are your clients looking for when they approach you?
So this is funny. Decisions are the most important thing that we do in business. It is the thing that makes and break us, but it's also the thing we pay least attention to. We spend a lot of money on strategies. We spend a lot of money on innovations, things like that. But we rarely take time to really understand decisioning. So decision science is an interdisciplinary field that is bringing on behavioral decision theory, economics, machine learning, all of these different disciplines to create insights that are going to help people make better decisions. So we also kind of we go a step further than data scientists. We take their information and we gain insights and patterns and things like that to help decision makers make better decisions. It's definitely something new that's out there, but it's definitely, I think, coming up. I'm hearing at least, and I'm in the field, so I'm a little biased, more and more about it, and more and more people are starting to pay attention to decision science, because really it is the most, I think, important part of what we do in our companies, because those decisions that we make, if we don't have, the people, process, and the data, we can't make the best decisions. So, and one of the big things that I think is good about decision science is the decision behavioral theory. That understanding how we make decisions, our biases and the heuristics, all of those different things come together. We can be more aware of how our own biases are framing or shaping our decisions. And that's something we don't like to talk about because, some of those biases are something like overconfident bias or, things like that. And we definitely need to pay attention to it, even though it's a hard thing to say that you're wrong in some areas. You kind of have to be open to saying, hey, let me take a step back and let me realize that I'm coming into this meeting, this decision meeting where the expectation is to make a decision on some mission critical issue. And I already have made up my mind,
Right.
And I need to back out, take a step back and open myself up to hear the information that's being presented so that I can make a sound decision that has, to the best of our ability, right? Because we're still human. So we still have this, as much as we try, we don't always succeed. But, to the best of our abilities, making ourselves aware of that. So that's part of what we wrap into our decision designs. Is the first part is the shift. We have to deal with your mindset. And then we have to promote that growth mindset. We have to live it and breathe it. It needs to become a part of what our companies are. We can't, just kind of say we want to be better here and then you don't actually follow through. It needs to be embedded in your ecosystem. And then once we help that along, we start doing the decision design. But all along, we're doing analysis on the company to make sure that we are understanding where we can make better make recommendations and, for implementation and design.
Sure, it makes sense that you can do all the analysis under the stars, and if people aren't open-minded enough to receive it, it doesn't do any good. And I imagine that is often the biggest challenge, is getting people's ego out of the way and realizing
Absolutely.
that often, for example, in a company, they're producing a widget and they think this widget is amazing, but the market may not think so in its current form or something, and trying to figure out the best way forward. I imagine that's part of the process of there's a term for that, you probably know, but that's part of the process for laying out which decisions are critical for the marketplace. Is that a big? Go ahead and give it maybe some ideal example clients or something that may ask for your services and how you go about pre-framing your services to them for how they're going to need to approach the decision.
Sure, absolutely. So one great thing about what we do is it can be applied to any industry. So it doesn't matter if you're in education or if you are creating widgets, you can apply this decision design that we've created to your ecosystem. Partly because I'll answer your question directly. Someone who has made some critical mistakes and they realize, hey, something failed. The system has failed here, and it happened at the decision level, that would be a customer that we would see. We would like to see them earlier than that. But most of the time, something has to fail before you realize, oh, we probably need to fix this,
Okay.
But when we see those startup companies, we like to get them on the right path right away. So that's one of the things that I learned in law school was our job is to make sure we're future proof, the company. So we're trying to build good designs for them that's going to last, as they grow, as they scale. With hopefully they grow and they scale. We all want to thrive and survive. But so those are kind of the two places where we see most people. But then we also do strategic design, which is hand in hand with decision design. Okay. So there's companies who've been in existence forever, they still can use that second set of eyes on how to look at strategy. And just like with decision design, strategy has those same effects. Like we still need to have an open, you still need to be open-minded to information and where it flows in from. So one of the other things that I'm big on when we do strategy is like, it doesn't matter. We need to be looking at from the, there's nothing wrong with being a janitor. And everyone has a job and their job means something, but anyone can have a great idea from the bottom to the top, and that should be the way that we approach our strategic designs and our decision designs is we're open to hearing information and we understand, how to assimilate that information, be it good or bad, and make the best use of it. So part of what we do when we're doing our analysis is we're checking the competencies, because if you are in a position where you need to make a decision, you need to be able to understand the information that's coming to you. So,
sure. Okay, that's a good point.
That's a very big issue that we have is sometimes we promote people because we like them or, because they're
something. Productive at their earlier level. But
yes.
They go to leadership and they don't have the tools.
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking at those competencies to make sure that, as people are pushed into these leadership positions, they understand the information and how to process it and how to then, how to essentially translate that information to our leadership to make these decisions, and then as a leader, from one CEO to another, we have to understand all pieces, right? We can't just understand our, for example, if I were a CFO, I'd get the financial piece really, really well. But what about operations and HR? From a CEO perspective, we need to be able to at least know a little bit about everything so that we can take all of that information, understand it properly, and make that best decision, or at least guide our team on making that decision, because we're a big fan here at Clarity Metrics on a collaborative effort of decision making, not just the one person. So
sure. And I imagine a big part of that and your job at Clarity Metrics is, and you mentioned it in the bio, is visual thinking, right? We're very visual creatures, and that's often the best way to explain things, bigger systems and stuff to people. Can you speak to that a little bit for our?
This is one of my passions that I have. And is understanding how we process information. And this is something that you are probably like, oh, you could teach me a thing or two, with your background. But one of the things that I like to skill up and learn about things like that is how we process information, how those patterns start kicking off in our brain to recognize what we're looking at and associate those experiences of our lives to figure out how we are going to react to the thing once we figure out what we're looking at. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm thinking of the who and the what part of our brain and, the patterns that happen when we focus in on something. I just recently read a book by Colin Ware called Visual Thinking for Designers. And I highly recommend this book. And he talked about and I'm going to say it wrong probably, so you feel free to correct me, but the fovea in our eyes.
The fovea.
Fovea. See, I knew I was going to say it wrong, but I can spell it. So he was talking about the fovea, and I was just so intrigued on how, he went through, this is how we focus in, and everything else becomes in the background. And we don't even realize all of the things that our brain is doing just for me to look at you right now,
There's layers of filtering happening. Yes.
Yeah, layers. And so, and then the other thing, that whole conversation is kind of off topic, but that whole book started a conversation in my household about, how tabula rasa, are we born with knowing everything, or are we a blank slate and we learn everything, And so me and my kiddos, my twins, we had this really deep conversation about how we interpret the world around us. And I'm like, you guys realize we're not always recording, right? We're not, the brain is not just constantly recording everything. So when we go back and we turn around, we can do a replay. It's what you see is, this is live action right in front of you,
Well, it's what's important to you at the time is the reticular activating system.
Yep. Yeah. And so we had this, and not only that, like I was telling my kids, like when I turn around, I expect to see that bike, but as I'm facing forward, I don't know what's back there. Right. No idea what's happening. You could be back there putting, ears on my hair. I don't know because I'm looking forward. So, we just it really does, learning so much about the brain and how we interpret data. It helps us to understand what we should be focusing on when we're presenting data and how we are, able to take in data. So small chunks, and as we can't only take 4 chunks of information at one time. So,
yes. But as you mentioned earlier about heuristics, our brain has tricks for which can be good and bad, right? And create biases and stuff for how to take in things quickly and process them more
efficiently.
More efficiently, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
These sort of for our viewers or listeners, the heuristics are largely the sort of, I don't want to say habits.
Mental shortcuts.
Yeah, they're mental shortcuts. They're cheats in a sense that your brain sets up pathways to process. It's sub-processing things so you don't have to do it consciously. And magicians can use that against you. All sorts of stuff. Illusionists, clever, people, right? Can get an outcome. It's a little bit of the neurolinguistic program. There's lots of different ways to affect people's emotions beforehand, and there's a lot of aspects to getting people in the right state to make a good decision versus a bad decision, and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. Spot on. So that's exactly what we look at when we're doing these designs. We're trying to clear the path, for those good decisions to be made by implementing some of those tools of, being mindful, self-reflection, take a step back, diversify your people at the round table with you. And that's a big thing that we believe in at Clarity Metrics, is that we should have a number of functional groups at every decision, every critical to mission critical decision. It shouldn't just be the CEO reading through a document. It should be a discussion, and at that table there should be finance, HR, risk management, procurement, because all of those different areas have a part to play. And whether or not this new innovative thing, this new mission critical initiative is going to be able to be applied in your ecosystem, not just the data, and I know that we've started saying this data driven. You see it everywhere. Sure. It's become a cliche almost, to me at least. So I don't say data driven. I always say information driven. We need information. It can be people, process, or data, because I feel like there's now an association with data driven decision making as charts and graphs. So when someone says data driven, they're like, give me charts, give me graphs,
Right, but you still need to decipher those and make informed decisions.
Yeah, and make an informed decision.
Analyzed, data driven.
Exactly. But and so I'm getting like passionate because this is like my thing.
Oh, good.
And then when you start analyzing it and you think, because for me, I think of data as the 2Ds and the 2Ps. They tell you your diagnostics, they tell you your, geez, I've used 2Ds and 2Ps so much, I forgot what the other D means, but it's your diagnostic information, your history, that's the 2Ds, your indicators, your history, your 2Ps are your prescriptive and your predictive analysis. And so when you're looking at that, what you're going to be able to see are indicators, patterns, and trends. You don't know why yet, though. You don't know why, you don't know why until you introduce the people in the process. So if you see an indicator that, oh, this thing is happening, it's really, really good, I love it, we're getting good return on it. But why? How did it happen? Who did it? Was it a change in process? Was it a change in people? Let's figure that out. You need more than just a chart and a graph and, to figure that out. You need much more than that. So that's where we try to, make everyone try to understand it's not just those graphs. It's not just the charts that help you decide your decisions. Not if you have the money on hand. It's also for future decisions. It's also, what if you do this? Do you have a predictive analysis in place to see what happens when you bring this new initiative or this new idea on board? Is it going to affect another area in your company? There are some unforeseen things that we just don't know. But if you use predictive analysis, then you can get that what if scenario planning kind of thing. Right. But then you have prescriptive analysis, which is going to tell you, and I often say, it's like going to a doctor. You have to tell all your variables, all your issues, all the symptoms, so that they can prescribe to you how to heal. Right. So your prescriptive analysis is doing just that. It's taking your variables and it's saying, this is the best way path forward, we think. Here's your prescription. And if you don't have those two things, you kind of fall short. So most people focus on those 2Ds, but not the 2Ps, and that's where I think the biggest bang for your buck when you're just looking at data happens. Okay.
In terms of your clients, you mentioned, obviously it's nice for startups to come in and have some extra clarity to their goals, but that's often a challenge for startups to be able to afford to do things like that. So can you speak to that a little bit, and what do you suggest for people who aren't sure and for potential clients?
So first, for Clarity Metrics, at least, we try to be reasonable. We have tier pricing. And so, of course, startups are the lowest tier. So their prices are lower than everyone else's, because we do recognize that, startups are starting up and they don't have all this, on-hand capital. So we do try to we do offer services at like a startup mid-size. We base it off of your systems, and we base it off of how long you've been in operation. So our pricing kind of fluctuates depending on how many systems you have. But if you're a startup, your base is always the lowest. But if you don't have any money, we've all been there, as a startup, and you want to learn more about decision design, I would say you got ChatGPT now. Yeah. So I hate to, push my business on the ChatGPT, but you can ask ChatGPT a couple of questions. I feel like I said before, when I first started, you don't need a bunch of degrees and things like that. You can definitely skill yourself up. But of course, you have to have the aptitude, to understand what you're reading. And that comes into play. But I feel like you can get a gist of how you should be thinking about decisions between ChatGPT, taking some of those LinkedIn courses, things like that.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of LinkedIn courses. They don't pay me to say that.
Okay. So Clarity Metrics has clients. You're here in Phoenix. Are they based in Phoenix often, or are they more national?
And national, yeah. Okay. Because our headquarters is in Tennessee. And we don't have a physical location, but our documents are in Tennessee, and you probably know why. So, but I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I take everyone. I think this week I've met with a couple of organizations here in the Valley. So I'm happy, because what I love about what we do is that any industry can be pushed into a decision design framework. So,
right. Okay. Excellent. Well, it sounds like things are going well for the business. What do you have on the horizon for the business and for yourself? Can you talk to your personal goals, your financial goals, the company's goals, something?
My company, well, I want us to be huge.
Okay.
That's always the thing,
You
right?
want to scale?
You want to scale, you want to be, you want to make lots and lots of money. That's the American dream. But in reality, what happens is you just get by. So I'm happy. I love helping people. And I love, being in a position where the knowledge that I've accumulated over my life has come to, it's not all for nothing. It's so nice to be able to put it all together and say, now I can offer something with it. Because when I was going through life, gathering these different disciplines, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So good thing I found out, decision science kind of wraps this up nicely. So I definitely want to continue to grow and scale my company. And for me personally, what's on the horizon, I just working. I'm a worker. I'm a hard worker. I just love working. So just keeping that up. I don't think my kids will ever take this up. I'm not creating a business that they're going to ever take over. It's not going to be a legacy. But I do want to bring forth, generational wealth, right? So that's always the goal for me, at least.
Okay. That kind of gets back into my arena, which is investing, and real estate it's not even arguably, it's the greatest wealth building vehicle on earth. It's created more millionaires, for example, than any other investment.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything any initiatives or anything on the horizon for Clarity Metrics?
No, we've just, going through day by day, just doing what we do. But there's one thing I was going to tell you, and I'm pretty sure you're probably going to ask me, like, what are some maybe things that I wish I wouldn't have done to increase my own wealth?
Sure.
I wish
I was going to ask what you would tell your younger self.
Yeah, my younger self, I would have said, don't listen to all of those schools that call you and say, you can sign up. You have enough money in your school loans, So I definitely, when I was younger, it was like, I want to get this degree. And I had I've always been a planner. So I had a plan on it. But but I knew better, I didn't know better actually to stop and think about school loans. Because if you want to talk about something that will eat your wealth, that is something that will eat your wealth, paying back those school loans, especially, that's probably better than I when you're in the medical field or professional field like law. Those bills are, those are some hefty. Hefty
student
notes.
Loans are pretty significant for sure.
Yeah. So I definitely would have thought twice about going to law school. And I would have thought twice about, just saying yes whenever a school called me and told me I could sign up.
Okay.
And I would have leaned into certificates and certifications because those are much cheaper, and you still get the credibility, to move forward in your career path. So that's my advice. Lean into those certifications and certificates because they're much cheaper. You still get the credibility and you have those credentials.
Right. I'd add to that you also get to network with different people in different fields and get a little more real life practice in different industries while doing that.
Absolutely.
And I'll piggyback your sentiment on education, how it's changed, right? I mean, historically, you wanted a college degree to show you had access to all this other information, have been trained, but the past couple decades and the internet has changed a lot of that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely agree. The workforce has changed. Everything has changed. And we often say we have to adapt or die. So I feel like that's kind of, I was right at the precipice of change and I fell the other way. So when I wanted to fall forward, I fell backward into the old ways of traditional, education. Like, you need this degree. So.
Right. Okay. Good advice. If people want to learn more about Clarity Metrics or Samantha Carter, what should they do? Where can they find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Clarity Metrics Group. You can also find us at www.claritymetricsgroup.com. And I do have a micro series on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and call Clarity Metrics Clarity Metrics Group, you can see a micro series that talks about these interdisciplinary. Each week I talk about a new interdiscipline. And I have that topic for the week. So they're micro presentations, but if you wanted to know more about that, I do cover, I think next week we're going to be covering behavioral decision theory. So.
Okay. Very interesting. Okay, cool. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening and watching. Thank you very much, Samantha Carter, for joining me today. We appreciate you sharing your story and insights into success and decision making, and people can go check out and learn more on your YouTube channel. That sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Inspired by our guests? Visit phoenixprosperitypodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.